Hey guys, Fox here, and today we're going to be reacting to a video. Um, I'm a Mario fan, so I don't really know anything about Zelda, like, at all. Nothing at all. All I know is he's blonde, and he has a sword, and he fights some weird Ganondorf guy. I don't know. So yeah, today we're going to be reacting to a video of the complete Legend of Zelda timeline by the leaderboard. Go subscribe to this guy, Haven't watched this video yet, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be good. And yeah, let's get into it. I don't really know what to expect from this.
The Legend of Zelda has a timeline that, while Hyrule Historia details it for us, has largely become outdated since the introduction of Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity, and Tears of the Kingdom.
I haven't played
Even
any
still,
of these
those
games.
games receive a lot of questioning as to when and where they take place in the current timeline, if they take place in it anywhere at all. There are plenty of theories out there, as the Zelda series seems to spawn a lot of those, but right now we want to take a stab at this timeline and attempt to figure it out. Creation. The creation of the world of The Legend of Zelda has been detailed many times, and was most famously told by the Great Deku Tree in the Ocarina of Time. At the very start of the Zelda world, three goddesses descended from above and began to shape the world. These golden goddesses were Din, Nehru, and Faror. Din embodied power, and with her great power, she forged the earth below her feet. Nehru embodied wisdom, and with her great knowledge, she forged the laws of the world with which everything must abide. And Faror, who embodied courage, used her great tenacity and gifted life to this world. With this world created, the Golden Goddesses forged three sacred triangles, which would later become known as the Triforce. This Triforce was representative of their power, and without its existence, the world they built would begin to decay. It could be split, yes. Shattered, yes. But destroyed, no. If ever destroyed and the power permanently lost, the world would collapse, as was shown in Lorule after they destroyed their own Triforce to save their kingdom from war. At some point in time, after the creation of the world, the three golden goddesses would commission another goddess, Hylia, to protect the Triforce, and she would eventually become the patron deity of the people of the land that would soon bear her name, Hyrule. This began the era known as the Era of Hylia. During Hylia's time, the land that would bear her name was prosperous and peaceful. But if this story didn't have strife, it would not be interesting, and no legend is complete without its villain. And so, from the depths, the Demon King rose. His name was Demise, and he sought to conquer the surface world with his forces. This was a time of great war and slaughter. Hylia, in a desperate attempt to save the people she loved, would raise islands of stone into the air where her people would live. She then separated the sky world and the surface with a barrier of clouds, so the two worlds would remain separate. With the people who would have been known as Hylians safe and far away from the war, Hylia gathered the various tribes on the surface, such as the Gorons, Kikwi, Mogma, and Parella, to do battle with the evil Demon King. And through their determination, they were able to seal him away. But Hylia was wounded, hurt, and dying. She knew that the threat would not end with this and break free. And so she hid the Triforce.
So wait, three goddesses made the world, and then a demon came. That's what I'm piecing together. A demon came and tried to end it. Okay. It's so confusing. We're only 2 minutes in. Let me just...
On the islands in the sky that would soon be known as Skyloft. She would also forge a powerful weapon designed to combat the Demon King that became known as the Goddess Sword, and later the Master Sword. Within it, she put a spirit known as Phi, who would guide the chosen wielders. Hylia then, knowing that the Triforce would never be used by a deity, decided to reincarnate into a mortal body that would come of age when the seal of the Demon King broke. And when it happened, her name was Zelda, Era of the Hero of the Sky. Now, we have our villain, and we have our princess to save, but one final thing that legend needs is a hero to save that princess. Enter Link, A
Mario.
dopey
Oh,
young man
okay.
with great potential despite his head both literally and figuratively being in the clouds. Thousands of years have passed since the war between Hylia and Demise, and the world is at peace. Hylia has
That's good.
reborn in the form of Zelda, and the time of the 25th wing ceremony has come. But on the day of this event, a tornado takes Zelda from the skies and pulls her to the surface as Girahim, the demon in servitude to Demise, brings her down in hopes of resurrecting his master. It's during this time that Hylia sends to the future Impa, who would aid Zelda, the incarnation of Hylia. Together, they would return to the past where Zelda would enter a deep slumber to keep the Demon King sealed away. During this time, Link finds the sacred flames to temper his blade into the Master Sword, where he then uses a second gate to travel back in time. After witnessing Zelda, Link travels back to the future where he uses the Triforce to destroy the Demon King.
Seriously? An ad? I'm trying to watch the lore. I'm trying to piece together the lore of Legends of Zelda. Okay. I don't care about Montego Bay. Okay. I'm sorry. Call that number down below if you want to, I don't know, what? Call that number down below if you want to go to a beach club, but I don't really care. I don't care. This better not be copyright, by the way. That's why I'm talking so much. There we go. Perfect.
However, Girahim travels to the past where Demise is still alive and plans to use Zelda's life to awaken his master. Link would face Demise with the completed Master Sword and kill him, but before the end, Demise utters a curse, stating that his hatred would be reborn time and time again. So long as the spirit of Hylia and her chosen hero are reborn, so too will be Demise's hatred. After this, Link, Zelda, and those of Skyloft descend to the surface where they begin to repopulate the land, their descendants becoming known as Hylians. Era of Tears, the founding of Hyrule. This is the start of where things get muddy, but I'll do my best. During this time, Hyrule is founded by Rauru, the first king of Hyrule, who was also a Zonai, a member of an ancient race believed to be descended from the gods, and with them they brought sacred treasures known as the Secret Stones. These stones would amplify one's power and make one a sage. Rauru was the Sage of Light, and his wife Sonia was of Hylian blood, and was the Sage of Time. Now, there is a timeline split here, or at least I assume so, as in one particular memory, Rauru mentions to Zelda that the future where Ganondorf woke up was one that did not have her return to the past. But at the same time, towards the end of the game, via a final mural in Hyrule Castle that existed at the game's start but was covered...
Okay, so this is Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, because, like, I don't know. I only know those two games because those are new. I haven't played them yet though. My friend says they're good. I don't know. I like Mario games. I play Super Mario Odyssey, Mario Galaxy, you know. Play all the Mario games. But maybe I'm being a little, you know, I don't know. I should give this a chance. Yes, I'll play it.
Shows Zelda in the past during the time of the imprisoning war, which means Zelda going back in time caused a timeline shift, and the era of the Wild, Calamity, and Tears would all take place in this timeline.
I knew it.
As had Zelda not gone back in time, none of this would have likely happened. That is a common theory as to why the symbol of Tears of the Kingdom is an Ouroboros, a snake eating its own tail. That's just a theory, but it is one I'm subscribed to. It might also explain why so many things have occurred that normally wouldn't coexist in any one timeline that we know. Perhaps it's because these games are in a completely separate timeline, but...
Hold up.
And I need to see all those games again. It might also explain why so many things have occurred that normally wouldn't coexist in any one timeline that we know. Perhaps it's because these games are in a...
Alright, so, wow, this game has a lot of games. Okay, Legend of... 4 Swords? They have a Wii system one. Damn, I didn't know they had that much games.
Separate timeline, but enough with the theorizing. I'm going to treat
these games
like 2 or 3, as a separate timeline, as Nintendo so far hasn't linked them to any in particular. So Zelda comes back in time, where she's stranded due to her inability to control her time powers to the same degree that she had when she was in danger. There she lives and studies with the Zonai and with her ancestors, Sonia and Rauru, from that point on. But an evil and ambitious man from the desert, the king of the Gerudo, appears to take the land by force. he and his forces are pushed back by the Hylians. Knowing that this will require him to be more crafty, Ganondorf swears fealty to the king, which everyone knows is fake. But they pretend it's real anyway, which was a big mistake, as Ganondorf later approaches the queen under the guise of Zelda and attempts to kill her. He's foiled by the real Zelda and Sonia's own Kane. However, Ganondorf appears behind Sonia and kills her, taking her secret stone, which would become his new secret stone of darkness. This allows him to unleash his...
Also, there are spoilers in this. Yeah, I should have said that before. I'll just put it in the title. But there are spoilers to all the games in here. Yeah.
Power as the Demon King, and raises the Blood Moon into the sky and gives birth to his army of monsters that begin to overrun the world. The Gerudo are the first to fall, but the leaders of each domain, from the Rito to the Goron, Sora, Gerudo, as well as both Zelda herself, replacing Sonia as a sage, and Mineru. Together, they lead their forces against those of the Demon King in what would later be known as the Imprisoning War, where the Demon King would be sealed away. After this, Zelda goes about to each sage speaking of Link and the timeline where Ganondorf will break free. It's then that each sage vows to share their powers with Link to help him. After this, Zelda ascends to the ruins above Hyrule, what some believe to be the remnants of Skyloft, though the Zonai apparently moved in at some point in time. Unless they wish to say that the Zonai were the Hylians who came down from Skyloft, though I doubt it. Anyway, she manages to take the damaged Master Sword from the future, where she plans to use her holy light to not only heal the broken blade, but supercharge it. And the only way to do this in her eyes is via draconification. So, with great determination, she swallows her own secret stone. In her last moments of consciousness, she begs Link to complete his quest, and then ascends into the skies as a dragon, where her tears fall all over Hyrule.
Oh, no. She just turns into a massive... Bro, what is this? Looks pretty cool, but...
Containing memories via her time power. For quite some time, peace returns, but it is not to last forever. The first calamity, the Zonai hero. In the years to come, the Sheikah take up the technology left behind by the Zonai, and with Zelda's warnings, they begin to develop weapons and armor to fight him, likely being derived from the Purapad, as well as the things created by the Zonai to get the travel functionality working. Ancient swords, arrows, bows, axes, shields, and armor, as well as the various types of guardians, and finally, the divine beasts themselves are forged by the Sheikah in preparation for the next time the Demon King awakens. As the seal begins to break, the embodiment of the Demon King's hatred and malice take form, rising from below the castle, originating from the imprisoning chamber. This malice attempts to resurrect into its master, but fails and remains nothing but a harbinger, or a phantom of Ganon himself. This creature becomes known as Calamity Ganon. At this time, the Princess of the Blood of the Goddess appears, as a hero of Zonai heritage takes up the Master's Sword. Together, along with the divine beasts, the guardians, and every monk, they attack Calamity Ganon and utterly destroy him with the blade of evil's mane and the light power of the princess. And for a time, the world knew peace. The second calamity, the fallen hero. 10,000 years after the first calamity, signs of a second begin to appear. Monsters begin to show up. Lynels, Bokoblins, Moblins, Hinoxes, and they begin...
Bokoblins, Hinoxes? What the heck? Alright, so these are the minions of Ganondorf, I think. Bokoblins. I've seen one with like a sword on his head. I'm like, what the heck?
To appear more frequently. Now, there is another branch in the timeline here, where the events of Age of Calamity occur. In the original timeline for the second calamity, Link, Zelda, and the 4 champions who were chosen by their respective peoples, descendants of the sages, all vowed the princess and to Hyrule to give their lives in service of the kingdom. Whether skyward bound, adrift through time, or steeped in the glowing embers of twilight. Together, Zelda continues to train as hard as possible to awaken her sealing powers. Her father seems impatient and pushes her to hurry her training up, which is only natural for a king to push. Zelda feels he pushes too hard though, and indeed he does, something he realizes soon after. He removes her from studying Sheikah Tech, as well as removing her guardian friend, Tarako, in hopes that she dedicates every waking moment to learning how to use her sealing powers. But nothing she does works. As her 17th birthday rolls around, she tries one last bid to awaken her powers, and travels to various springs. from Pharaon to Lanariu to Eldin to awaken her powers, but nothing she does works. As she returns to the castle after her time in the Spring of Knowledge, she feels defeated, and it is at that time that the Calamity's time comes. The champions try to comfort their princess and each rush to their divine beasts and take their positions to ready their assault on Ganon, but Ganon was too smart for that. Having learned from his own previous mistake, Calamity Ganon sends vestiges of his own power to corrupt the Guardians, shut down the Sheikah Towers, breach the containment spires placed below the castle, and take control of the divine beasts, killing their pilots and replacing them with blights. Link and Zelda attempt to face Ganon, and in the course of their battle, King Rome is killed and Zelda is forced to flee with Link. They rush to Fort Hateno, the last bastion against the Calamity where the Guardians encircle them. A battered and wounded Link stands ready to die for his princess, but before he can, Zelda cries out and pushes her hand forward, releasing a blast of holy light which destroys the Guardians. Link then falls due to his wounds. In critical condition, it's revealed that his wounds are fatal, but with the help of Robbie, Purah, and Impa, they transport him to the Shrine of Resurrection where his life will be sustained and his wounds healed over the course of 100 years. During those 100 years, Zelda herself plans to visit the castle where she will fight the Calamity alone. Once there, she begins a sealing ritual as Ganon attacks her. In the end, the two are forced into a stalemate, and the Calamity goes mostly dormant for the next century. Now there is a timeline split, as during the attack on the castle, Tarako is accidentally awakened and travels to the past where it brings secret knowledge that explains what happens in the future. Ganon, however, also travels back through Malice and possesses another version of Tarako, where it, now known as Harbinger Ganon, contacts Astor, a believer in the cult of Calamity Ganon, and as far as I'm concerned, another incarnation of Ganondorf. I could be wrong, but the dude just puts off big Yuga vibes, and Yuga counts as a version of Ganondorf just as much as Hilda and Ravio match Zelda and Link. Anyway, with this new information, the champions have time to prepare, and though Zelda cannot awaken her sealing powers, the champions prepare. And when the Calamity does occur, Tarako summons the current champions to the past to save Daruk, Urbosa, Mipha, and Rivali. Together they defeat their blights, and Link survives the battle thanks to Zelda's help against Astor. Launching a counter-offensive against Calamity Ganon, the champions weaken Ganon's form, and he's eventually met by Link and Zelda. After absorbing Astor, Calamity Ganon takes form and transforms into its more humanoid transformation. However, in the end, it is defeated and sealed, leaving the Hyrule Warriors world free of the Calamity. However, in the previous timeline, Calamity Ganon realizes that the time travel never really mattered anyway, as its victory in this world at least is secured.
Just keep on coming back.
What do you know about a heist at a black market storage facility in Kazakhstan?
Nothing.
Zelda holds him in place as Link heals. Era of the Wild. After 100 years pass, Link awakens with no memories of who he is or what he's done. Even still, upon meeting the spirit of King Rome, he takes up the quest to defeat Ganon and save Zelda. Why? Well, because he's the hero. Or, you know, maybe it's because the king gave Link a roasted apple. Who knows? Anyway, Link proceeds to go through the land of Hyrule where he meets the elderly Impa who explains the Calamity to him.
Did you just say elderly or ugly?
She also later gives him his proper tunic back. Link travels to Hateno village and has Purah restore his Sheikah slate, and proceeds on his quest where he witnesses memories of the past via retracing Zelda's steps. Eventually, he is fully realized and manages to free all the divine beasts and free the spirits of the other champions. He then makes his final bid to the castle where he faces Calamity Ganon, who takes a monstrous form held together by ancient tech, and appears to be attempting to reform into a new body of Ganondorf, though it is not yet finished. As Link enters the throne room, the cocoon that held the Calamity bursts open, and the monster falls to the ground with Link, where they both fall into the sealing chambers just above the imprisoning chambers where the body of Ganondorf is still being held. The two battle, causing great damage to the castle.
Kind of reminds me of that Mario game. I think it's for the 3DS. Super Mario 3D Land, where Bowser falls from the castle. He hits the concrete with Mario on it. The concrete snaps, and then they look at each other and then fall. Then the boss fight continues. I don't know. Coincidences. This looks very similar. Yeah. I'm only 15 minutes in.
Defense is in the process before the Calamity is defeated by the combined efforts of the champions and their beasts. and Link with his Master Sword. It reformed the Dark Beast Ganon, a massive boar formed of malice. Zelda offers Link the Bow of Light, which he then uses to weaken the beast enough for Zelda to escape. She then uses her sealing powers to destroy the Calamity. From here, peace returns. Zelda, now no longer living in the castle, continues her research into Sheikah technology. She mentions that oddly one of the divine beasts has stopped working, and the two go to investigate it as the spirits of the champions as well as the king proceed to the afterlife, pleased with Zelda and Link's help. Era of Tears. Demon King Reborn. What happened between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is unknown. At some point, Sheikah technology all but disappears from the world. Why this happens is left open for debate. However, some theories exist, and my personal theory hinges on the last mention of Sheikah tech in the previous game. It was stated that Vah Ruta stopped working. It seems likely to me that since Ganon was sealed, his influence over the divine beasts as well as their purposes were at an end. Perhaps they had a failsafe. It's unknown, but in canon the beasts seem to stop working, and the same is likely true for all Sheikah
So
tech
just
to
stay
a
there?
point. And given these things are no longer of use to the
It's a
heroes and could
wait, a Nintendo Switch. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Nintendo. Oh my gosh. Nintendo's in the Legend of Zelda world. Insane.
be used against them should the Calamity return, they likely decide it's best to dismantle the divine beasts, as well as the guardians and towers, and make something new, as the Purapad is of Sheikah design, and the new towers are of that same design. Besides this theory, a theory that Zelda's time travel affected it, or that the previous game's events are in a different timeline themselves, there is no official statement as to what happened to these devices. But regardless, they disappear from the landscape, and nobody but the player seems to miss them. But as an unknown number of years pass by, the people rebuilding near the castle begin to grow ill. Link and Zelda investigate, where they realize that a new form of malice known as gloom is spreading from below the castle. The two go to investigate and find ancient Zonai ruins below the castle. This is unique, as the only Zonai ruins thought to have existed in the wild, such as those in Faron Woods. But slowly, as they go deeper, they find murals explaining the history of the kingdom and its strife with the Demon King. Sadly, once they go deeper, they're brought face to face with the mummified corpse of Calamity Ganon's originator, Demon King Ganondorf. Ganondorf seems to awaken by fate itself right before their eyes, the last of Raru's power spent. Link attempts to defend Zelda, but is wounded by the corrupting effects of the gloom, which then shatters the Master Sword. Ganondorf then raises the castle into the air with his gloom and opens chasms in the ground that lead to a secret underground kingdom, a perverse version of Hyrule. The once floating Zonai Islands then rise once more into the air, and the event known as the Upheaval begins. Zelda falls into the pit alongside Link and Ganondorf. Her time powers and the secret stone she took from Raru save her and send her to the past, as we've already detailed above. Link, however, is saved by the spirit of Raru, who transports him to the Sky Islands and transplants his own arm onto Link's body, as the gloom has destroyed Link's previous arm and left him in a state where he would eventually die. This is not without its boons, though, as Link gains access to many of Raru's abilities, including the Ultra Hand and Flex Seal abilities that make Korok torture all the more intoxicating. During the course of this game, Link travels to all 4 regions to meet with Sidon, Yunobo, Riju, and Tulin. He finds heart containers and stamina containers, which slowly drain him of the gloom still poisoning his system, helping him heal and reach full power. He tackles each dungeon, and once all sages are united, including the secret 5th Sage of Spirit, Link travels to the depths under Hyrule Castle, where he must face the Demon King's army as well as every monster he had killed previously in the dungeons. However, the sages appear to help him. Link, who likely bears the Master Sword and knows Zelda's fate, if you did the geoglyphs and went to Korok Forest, would face the Demon King. He would face him in 2 phases, first as Ganondorf and secondly as Demon King Ganondorf. Each time he defeats Ganondorf. And, at the end, after seeing that there is no victory like this, finds himself willing to completely lose himself in order to have eternal life and a chance to destroy Link and everything he cares for. Ganondorf also swallows a secret stone and transforms into the Demon Dragon and takes up Link in his mouth. However, Zelda appears as the Light Dragon to aid Link. Together, they fight Dragondorf, hitting his weak spots and eventually destroying his secret stone, which causes his power to overload. The dragon cries out as light escapes its body, and it explodes in a spectacular manner. After this, Link wakes up in the spirit realm above the Light Dragon. Sonia and Rauru channel their powers through Link, who uses Rauru's arm to reverse the draconification. This causes Link's own arm to be restored as well, and for some reason removes his shirt. Link lost Rauru's arm, but gained the ability to riz on command without words. They fall from the sky, where Link catches an unconscious Zelda splashing down into the lake below. After this time passes, the new sages Zelda and Link follow Mineru up to the Sky Islands, where she says farewell and abandons her mecha form for the spirit world where Rauru is waiting for her. From here, time is peaceful, as this game is technically at the end of all timelines and the latest in chronological order. I tackled it first, however, as it was the first timeline branch in the Zelda series. But let's return to the main branch, after the imprisoning war. If Zelda didn't go back in time, there's no telling what could have and would have happened in the imprisoning war. There may not have ever been such a war, as Ganondorf may have failed to assassinate Sonia. Who knows what happens? But in those courses of events, we see our next era play out without the fear of the calamity. Era of chaos. While the threat of calamity Ganon never cropped up again in this main timeline, the threat of greed remains persistent, as knowledge of the Triforce spread. The Sage of Light, Rauru, who some believe to be different, but considering the Era of Chaos took place around the same time as the founding of Hyrule, could mean that they're the same person, just different characterizations. One is a fluffy boy, and the other one turns into an owl, equally fluffy, but with less boy mixed in. Anyway, he builds the Temple of Time over the sealed temple in Faron, but a group of powerful wizards and warlocks known as the Interlopers use the power of the Fused Shadow, a magic hexing mask, in a bid to take the Triforce for themselves. However, the patron guardian spirits of the land seal them away in the world of Twilight, banishing them forever. Era of Prosperity. It's at this time that the Era of Prosperity begins, with the founding of the Kingdom of Hyrule being complete. Honestly, this is partly why people have issues with the placement of the Tears and Wild games, as their version of the founding is a little different. Of course, it's also possible that these events merely changed slightly. After all games are titled as legends, and legends are stories passed down over time whose validity comes into question as each generation embellishes or forgets certain aspects.
That's why it's called The Legend of Zelda.
Either way, after the founding of Hyrule and the establishment of the royal family, it became commonplace for the princesses born to be named Zelda after the Hylian goddess who came of the same name. Era of the Minish. The Minish descended from the heavens during this age to offer to men their sword, the Picori Blade, as well as a sacred triangle known as the Light Force. This was during a time when evil beings were attacking the world. The hero of that time used the Picori Blade to seal the evil into a chest. 100 years after that, on the Centennial Festival celebrating the victory of the hero, they hold a sword-fighting tournament, which one named Vati joins. When he does, he wins, takes the blade, and breaks it, all before opening the chest in hopes of finding the Light Force, but instead lets out the evils. He kidnaps Zelda to take her Light Force from her. Link then goes on a quest to restore the Picori Blade. He infuses it with the 4 elements to turn it into the 4 Sword. He then rushes to face Vati, who had been turned into a winged demon by the Light Force. Vati is defeated. Despite this, he survived and re-emerged with no memories of his past, and declares himself the Wind Mage and begins to spread terror and take young girls from their homes. He is once more sealed by a hero for a second time, but you can't keep a good demon down, and so Vati weakens the seal for generations upon generations until he can escape once more and cause mayhem for a 3rd time. During this time, Link takes up the 4 Sword, and his self is split into 4 separate beings. They all gather the keys to Vati's castle, where they then defeat him and seal him in the blade once more. Returning the blade to its pedestal, Link takes his singular form again, and peace is restored. Era of the Hero of Time. This era marks the time of one of the most famous versions of Link of all time. The Kingdom of Hyrule is thrown into a period of civil war as a new era of chaos breaks out. Various official sources, though questionably canon, give more insight into Link's time here, particularly his mother, the wife of a soldier in the Royal Guard, which rings true to who Link is. Despite this, the validity of the manga's version of events remains questionable. What is undeniable, however, is that during this time, Link's mother is wounded, and so she flees into Kokiri Forest, where she gives her child up to the Deku Tree, who swears to take care of it as the mother passes away before him. Link is raised like a Kokiri, but it's obvious something is different as he has no fairy. He begins to have nightmares. Unbeknownst to him, in the kingdom of Hyrule, just beyond the woods, a certain princess bearing the blood and name of the goddess is having the same dream, which the Deku Tree interprets to mean a great evil is coming.
I do like the Deku Tree.
Not long after, a man of the desert,
The mustache
Ganondorf,
is
appears
insane.
before the Deku Tree and demands the Kokiri's sacred stone. The Deku Tree refuses and is cursed with death. Link, who takes up a slingshot, the Kokiri's sword, and a wooden shield, enters the Deku Tree to kill the blight ailing him, but it's too late, and the Deku Tree dies. Link, realizing he's Hylian instead of Kokiri, sets out to inform the princess, who sends him to collect the sacred stones from the others. Link gets the Goron stone, the Zora's stone, and adds it to the Kokiri stone, and goes to the Temple of Time to reclaim the Triforce before Ganondorf can. But Ganondorf is revealed to have already been waiting for him and takes the Triforce first. But the triangle splits into 3. Power stays with Ganondorf, courage goes to Link, and wisdom goes to Zelda. Link is locked into a slumber within the Temple of Time until he turns 16, in which he's able to claim the Master Sword and begin his quest. He frees each of the sages and rushes to the castle to stop Ganondorf and engages in battle with him. This is important to note as there are 3 scenarios that spawn 3 timelines. In one of these, Link dies while fighting Ganondorf, and the King of Evil maintains his hold over Hyrule until it's flooded out by the gods. This spawns the Fallen Hero timeline where Wind Waker takes place. In another, Link manages to defeat him and the castle collapses.
What the timeline splits in 2? Why can't it just be simple? Come on. We're only 26 minutes in. 26. Why does it have to split in 2? One where he dies and one where he doesn't? Come on.
However, this is not the end, because in the ruins, Ganondorf is revealed to be still alive and uses the power of the Triforce to become the Demon King Ganon, a boar of immeasurable strength. Things look bad for Link, but as he weakens the beast, he reclaims the Master Sword as Zelda holds Ganon in place with her sealing powers, letting Link deal the final blow. The sages would seal Ganon away in the Sacred Realm, which is the spawn of the second timeline known as the Adult Timeline, which is where games such as the original Legend of Zelda for the NES, its sequel, and Link to the Past take place. And then there is a third timeline known as the Child Timeline. In the Child Timeline, Link goes back to the past and tells Zelda what happens, and the royal family of Hyrule take Ganon and imprison him. Eventually, it is noted that they plan to execute Ganondorf, despite him having yet to actually commit a crime. Not like he's innocent, though. Kill the bastard. But it's not to be. The gods play a trick on everyone, whether it's because Ganondorf was mistreated for something he didn't do, or perhaps because he is destined to continue to rise to allow the cycle of birth and destruction to continue, as he would be counted as a force of nature and a tool of ultimate good. Sort of like how Beerus the Destroyer in Dragon Ball is a destroyer and murders people so that life can start anew and be productive. Or, maybe Din just really thinks screwing with the Hylians is funny and offers him her power just so he can make trouble. Either way, the 6 sages, reduced to 5 after Ganondorf breaks free and gets grabby with one of them, use the Mirror of Twilight to send him to the Twilight Realm to suffer, and apparently break up a piece of a happy civilization, because nobody cares how the Twilight will feel about having the King of Evil dropped on top of them. But yeah, for a time, Ganondorf is sealed away. The Child Timeline, the search for a friend. Link, as a child, then sets off on a journey to find his friend Navi, who left him at the end of Ocarina of Time. During this, he's sidetracked in Termina after a Skull Kid wearing a strange mask steals his horse and curses him to become a Deku Scrub. Link would manage to get his Ocarina quickly enough to be saved from death by traveling back in time thanks to the Goddess of Time, who I suspect is actually Hylia for many reasons. Honestly, this whole game should spawn like thousands of timelines, but Nintendo hasn't covered that yet. Link proceeds to go out and solve many problems, collect masks, and free the 4 giants that Majora's Mask had sealed away. After freeing them, he takes the fight to Skull Kid, who is revealed to have only been a puppet as the mask was controlling him. It's noted at one time, by the way, that this mask was created by a tribe for hexing rituals. While unconfirmed, I believe it was the interlopers who became the Twilight, as masks and hexes seem to be their thing. Link would would go to the moon to confront Majora, which seems to be learning and trying to understand what Link's doing, what it means to be a friend, and reveals itself to have bonded with Skull Kid over their shared loneliness. After playing games with each of the lunar children and giving them masks, Majora's Mask gives Link a mask known as the Fierce Deity's Mask, which Link uses to effortlessly stomp holes in Majora. The mask is purged of all evil and reclaimed by the Happy Mask Salesman as the moon returns to the sky and the giants leave. After befriending Skull Kid, Link sets off. However, this is not a happy ending, as it seems Link never found Navi, never got back with Zelda, joined the Royal Guard where he fought in many battles, lost an eye, and ultimately perished on the battlefield as a nobody, lamenting that after everything he did, not a single person would remember him. He dies bitterly, only freed when he teaches his descendant his techniques. The era of Twilight. In this era, Link lives in the Faron Woods as a cattle farmer where he would also deliver a ceremonial sword to Hyrule Castle. However, during the course of this time, Midna, the Twilight Princess, is overthrown by Zant, the Usurper King, who has been empowered by Ganondorf's powers. He curses Midna to an imp form and shatters the fused shadow. He then makes his move on Hyrule Castle and covers the entire kingdom in Twilight. Link is caught and turned into a wolf in the Twilight. However, with Midna's help, he breaks free, rescues his friends, and reforms the fused shadow, which he uses to attack Hyrule Castle.
Think you're ready? Let's get to work.
These ads
There,
are
Midna
insane.
kills Zant, and Link has to fight Zelda, who is under Ganondorf's control. Link then makes his way to the throne room, where he manages to defeat
Who was that? They keep on showing me characters I don't know. Say who the characters are. Come on.
Ganon, but he then must face Ganondorf, where he stabs him through with the Master's Sword. Ganondorf seemingly tries to reclaim the power he planned to use to resurrect Zant in an effort to resurrect himself, but Zant, realizing that Ganondorf was not a god and was betraying him, elected to kill himself a second time and waste this power, which caused Ganondorf to truly die. Era of Four Swords Adventures. Generations later, likely 100 years, the Gerudo have patched relations with Hyrule, but
Is Link just immortal? Like,
alas, another male is born to them, the reincarnation of the King of Evil, Ganondorf. He goes to the ancient pyramid and steals the trident he once used long ago and steals the Mirror of Darkness, which seemed to be the remains of the Mirror of Twilight, and used it to create a dark version of Link. He then planned to free Vati from the Four Sword. He opened the rift to the Dark World, transforming the four Knights of Hyrule into Sulfos. Link proceeds to take the Four Sword, freeing Vati before he himself splits into four, just as his ancestor did years earlier. Link would travel about, taking out the four knights and claiming their four jewels. Together, the Links travel—
Oh wait, so the old bro, why is my chair keep on? I'm so close to my bed too. So wait, tell me if I'm getting this right. Link from like 10,000 years, they were like getting reincarnated, right? And then later in the timeline, Link just died off. So we taught other kids to be Link? No.
the Tower of Winds, where they destroy Vati and seal away Ganon forevermore. But that is just the child timeline. There are still two more. The adult timeline, the era without a hero. This era began the moment Link decided to go back in time and resume his childhood. Due to him being both the hero of the past and future at the same time, this meant that the world he chose to leave behind would possess no hero. And then, when the seal the sages put on Ganondorf finally broke, he escaped and began to ravage Hyrule with his forces. The people waited for a hero to appear and take up the blade that seals the darkness, but none appeared. And so, Hyrule was laid to waste. With Ganondorf possessing the Triforce of Power, King Daphne's Nohansen Hyrule would keep hold of the Triforce of Courage, where he would eventually shatter and hide it. His daughter Zelda would hold the Triforce of Wisdom as always. Eventually, it became too much, and the people begged the gods to step in and help, to which they obliged. The surviving citizens of Hyrule and the different races of Hyrule began to flee to the mountains, to the highest peak. After this, the gods sent a great deluge to flood out Hyrule and seal it at the bottom of the Great Sea. It's during this time that the Great Deku Tree would use its magic to transform the Kokiri children into the Koroks that you are also callously torturing right now. The Gorons, well, very few seem to have survived. Wind Waker possesses 3 of them, and the Gerudo appear to have also disappeared, whether that be due to exile or because they were counted unworthy to survive due to spawning Ganondorf. Also, the Zora evolved into the Rito for some reason. It actually doesn't make sense why a flood would force the Zora to evolve into the Rito. They're literally water breathers. Why would more water hurt them? Some have theorized that the Great Sea is a salt sea and that the Zora, like some freshwater fish, can't breathe it. But therein lies an issue because in Majora's Mask, the Zora who appear there all live in the Great Bay, which is a part of a saltwater ocean. And also, wouldn't it make more sense for the Zora just to evolve to breathe saltwater instead of evolving to fly? I digress. I'm getting off track. The Zora evolve into the Rito and they begin a mail service. On one island though, the Outset Island, the people begin a tradition. To honor the legendary hero of time, when a boy comes of age, he is garbed in a green hat and tunic, in hopes that the boy will grow to be as courageous as the hero of time. The Era of Wind. Speaking of courageous children, on one particular boy's birthday, he is garbed in green. However, it is at about this time that Ganon's reaches begin to ascend out of the depth, because you just can't keep a good demon down and out. Ganondorf searches for the Triforce so that he can wish upon it, and to that end, he searches for the current Princess Zelda. He knows she's alive, but he doesn't actually know what she looks like. So he sends out the Helmrock King to capture any girl who even comes close to matching the girl's description. The bird then begins capturing any girl it finds and locking them away in the Forsaken Fortress. At one point in time, it captures the pirate princess, Tetra, whose birth name is actually Zelda, and tries to flee with her. However, her crew gives chase and shoots the bird down, causing it to drop Tetra. Link rushes to help and saves her from a group of monsters. After this, Link's luck runs out as the Helmrock King kidnaps another blonde-haired little girl, Ariel, Link's little sister. Determined to save her, Link leaves home and joins Tetra's pirate crew, where they take him to the Forsaken Fortress where he is not ready for what awaits him. Tetra is kidnapped and Link gets cast out and awakens on Windfall Islet's shore where he meets with the King of Red Lions, a mystical boat who secretly used to be King Daphne's Hyrule. Together they go on various missions to find the proper tools and gather the proper friends. They get the Master Sword, awaken the sages, and collect the Triforce pieces. Once the Triforce of Courage has...
This is very confusing. Okay, so... Of course I dropped my phone. Alright, so this timeline splits into like 50,000 things, right? Adult, child, death, or whatever. It's so weird, but you know, once I actually get to play it, maybe it'll make sense. Maybe.
Been restored, Link heads to Hyrule below the waves where he plans to save Tetra and end Ganondorf's plans for good. Entering the castle, he ends up facing a puppet version of Ganon that he manages to defeat.
Canadian, XL,
After this, he ascends the tower where he finds Tetra, now wearing her Zelda attire, and Ganondorf looking out over Hyrule. The pieces of the Triforce resonate and become one again. Ganondorf goes to touch the Triforce to get the wish he's been searching for over the course of the game. To his chagrin, King Daphnes touches it first with the most sarcastic glare. It's revealed that his wish was that Hyrule be flooded completely and that Ganondorf finally be killed. Ganondorf, seeing how he spent years upon years, generation after generation, trying to take the Triforce, only to finally have it in his grasp and it be stolen from him, starts to laugh. He proceeds to tell his side of the story, how in the Gerudo Desert, the wind carries with it sorrow and death, while Hyrule's wind brought prosperity. He says that perhaps he just coveted that wind, but I think it's just because he's a real bastard, because if he loved the Gerudo so much, he wouldn't have put a curse on their lands or treated them unfairly in the Ocarina of Time. After his monologue, he just decides to kill everyone, since if he's going down, he wants the satisfaction of killing them himself. Link and Ganondorf enter a battle where Tetra uses her bow of light to distract Ganondorf. Link would then take his chance and jump up, stabbing the blade into Ganondorf's forehead, causing the Demon King to turn to stone. As the water falls,
Did he
King
die?
Daphnes would use his power to create air bubbles that would transport them back to the surface, where Link and Tetra find safety above the waves. In the end, both Link and Zelda set sail to find a new continent. During their time in search of this, they encounter a mysterious ghost ship, of which Tetra is kidnapped. Link begins his search for the Ocean King and awakens the spirits of power, courage, and wisdom. Link further utilizes the Phantom Hourglass and searches for 3 pure metals. In the end, Oceus reveals himself to be the Ocean King and fuses with the Phantom Hourglass into the Phantom Sword. Link, wielding this sword, encounters the true villain of this game, Bellum, and faces it to save Tetra. Once the beast is defeated, the two continue sailing, searching for that new continent, the era of Hyrule's rebirth. Link and Tetra eventually find this new continent and find it covered in spirit tracks, a railroad system spanning the entire continent. At the center of it is the Tower of Spirits, all of which were created by the Locomo to seal another demon king named Malladus. It's here that Tetra and Link found the new Hyrule. 100 years after, though, the tracks begin to disappear. The current Link is a train engineer, and Zelda is, well, still a princess. Chancellor Cole reveals himself to have always been a demon in disguise, and rips Zelda's soul from her body and proceeds to the Tower of Spirits in hopes of reviving his master, Malladus. As he does so, he shatters the tower into 4 floating pieces. Over the course of this game, Link must gather the pieces of the tower that have been fragmented. He would, along with Princess Zelda's spirit, go to the Spirit Tower to stop Malladus from possessing Zelda, but they're too late. They chase Malladus and Cole into the Dark Realm, where they encounter them and the Demon Train. Together, they defeat them with the help of the Bow of Light and the Locomo Sword. With the evil vanquished, Zelda recovers her body and peace returns to New Hyrule. If you thought it ended there, you are sorely mistaken. There is a 3rd timeline to explore. Fallen Hero Timeline, the New Imprisoning War. Also known as the Imprisoning War, I felt I needed to distinguish it from the one waged at the founding of Hyrule. Anyway, in this timeline, Link faces Ganondorf, but his powers are not sufficient, and the Demon King triumphs and slays his adversary. With Link dead, Ganon would take both the Triforce of Courage and the Triforce of Wisdom and add them to his Triforce of Power, achieving the full Triforce as he set out to do. However, to stop him, the sages and Zelda sealed Ganon into the Sacred Realm, which would later become the Dark World. For a time, peace was maintained. However, as the seal weakened and the door to the Sacred Realm opened, another era of chaos began, as the citizens of Hyrule took up arms against each other in an attempt to steal the completed Triforce. However, all who entered never returned, and what was worse, an army of monsters began to exit the door. With the world threatened once again, the king commanded the sages to reseal the entrance, which was mostly successful, but the cost was great. Many people had died, and so much property and resources had been destroyed during the war that Hyrule fell into poverty. It's here that a new hero rises, the era of light and dark. An evil wizard named Aghanim appears and hopes to break the seal on the Dark World. To do that, he kills the king, brainwashes the royal guard, and kidnaps 6 of the maidens, descendants of the sages, in hopes that this will end the seal on his master. Link, the next chosen hero, goes to rescue Zelda and encounters Aghanim. He would eventually follow him to the Dark World, where he would kill both Aghanim and Ganon, ending the threat. Link would then wish upon the Triforce to resurrect those killed and undo all the harm done since Ganon's seal broke. The dream. Link, after his grand adventure, returns to Hyrule via cargo vessel. But a massive storm blows up and Link is cast overboard as the ship sinks. Link wakes up on an island called Koholint. Link, eager to get home, asks how he might and is told that nobody leaves the island, as the entire island is merely the dream of the windfish that sleeps in the egg atop the highest mountain of the island. The only way for him to get off the island is to gather the siren's instruments and to play the Ballad of the Windfish. Link begins to collect the 4 instruments, but is halted by many monsters who know that if Link awakens the Windfish, everything and everyone on the island except Link will cease to exist, which would actually make Link the villain in this game, yeah? After defeating the monsters and the nightmares, he plays the song for the Windfish and it awakens, and after this, Link is found floating upon driftwood in the middle of the water. I still wonder if the island ever truly existed, or if the Windfish was a euphemism for Link trying to wake himself up. Era of Oracles. Taking place almost immediately after the Era of Light and Dark, the mothers of Ganon, Twinrova, want to resurrect their son. To do this, they require 3 flames: the Flame of Destruction, the Flame of Sorrow, and the Flame of Despair. To do this, they send their subordinates, General of Darkness Onox and Sorceress of Shadows Varen, to the kingdoms of Holodrum and Labrina, respectively. One day, though, as Link was visiting the castle in Hyrule, he was called out to by the Triforce. Upon touching it, he was teleported to the land of Holodrum. While there, he met a dancer named Din, who just so happened to be the Oracle of Seasons. She was kidnapped by General Onox, though, which caused the seasons to be thrown out of balance. Link, with the mythical Rod of Seasons in hand, began to collect the 8 essences of nature, and thereafter confronted General Onox and killed him, rescuing the Oracle. Despite this, though, the Flame of Destruction was lit. Link then found himself transported to Labrina. While there, he comes across Impa, who's having issues with a stone possessing the Triforce's insignia. Link pushes it out of the way for her and reveals Nehru on the other side. Impa is revealed to be only a puppet as the Sorceress Varen leaves her and possesses Nehru. Due to Nehru being the Oracle of Time, she uses Nehru's time powers to go back in time and manipulate the Queen to build the Dark Tower. Link, after collecting the Harp of Ages, collects the 8 Essences of Time as well, and confronts Varen and defeats her. But alas, the Flame of Sorrow was lit. To light the final flame, Twinrova kidnapped Zelda as she made her way to Labrina and planned to use her as a sacrifice.
Tired of being a hero?
No.
Play as a villain. Start as a humble snail. Devour enemies.
Link rushes to the rescue where he proceeds to defeat the twins. However, in an attempt to resurrect their bouncing baby pork boy, they offer themselves as tribute to finish the ritual, which is only partially successful. Ganon is revived, but as a mindless beast. Link would once more face off against his old rival and kill him once more. With peace restored, Link leaves by boat back to Hyrule. Now, there is something to acknowledge here. In the previous era, Link arrived on Koholint Island after his boat sank as he returned to Hyrule after the course of the Era of Light and Dark. Some believe that this indicates that the Oracle games come first and then Link's Awakening. However, according to the Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia, the Oracle games come after Link's Awakening. It's unknown if this is a misprint or a faux pas on the side of those creating the encyclopedia, or if Link just really likes boat rides. As it stands, official sources indicate that the Oracle games came after Link's Awakening. The Triforce is broken. In the years following Link's time in Holodrum and Labrina, the Triforce was split apart. Wisdom remained with Link, power somehow fell back into Ganon's possession, and the final piece, Courage, is unknown. It's said to exist within the heart of the hero. However, in another world, the opposite of Hyrule, a land called Lorule, the Triforce, having become too much of a temptation, is instead destroyed to end the wars and greed in the hearts of the people. This has disastrous effects as the world of Lorule finds itself dying without its Triforce. A Link Between Worlds. Ah yes, the game that holds a special place in my heart for being my first step into this wonderful world we find ourselves in. This particular game transpires centuries after the defeat of Ganon. Yuga, a magician and artisan from the dimension where Lorule exists, appears in their sister dimension of Hyrule where he proceeds to kidnap Zelda and the 6 sages by turning them into paintings.
Kinda
Link,
like Mario.
after being hurt in a battle against Yuga and trying to stop him from taking Ceres, wakes up with Ravio by his side, a fairly talkative and cowardly businessman wearing a bunny hood. Strong-arming Link into letting him stay in his house, Ravio gives Link a bracelet before opening shop. Eventually, Link must reclaim the Master's Sword before entering Hyrule Castle and confronting Yuga. Yuga flees to Lorule, and with the power of Ravio's bracelet, Link follows him in. While there, he sees how torn down Lorule is, but knows what he must do. He goes about rescuing the 6 sages before storming Lorule Castle, where he learns that the true mastermind behind this is Hilda, the Lorulean counterpart to Zelda. While powerful, she reveals that she always had been doing what she thought was best for her people, and now she just wanted to save them from imminent doom, no matter who she had to hurt to do so. In the end, however, she was betrayed by Yuga, who awakened and fused with Ganon to take upon himself the Triforce of Power. He absorbed Hilda and also gained the Triforce of Wisdom, but Link, still bearing the Triforce of Courage, would enter battle with him, where Ganon would begin to utilize the abilities of Yuga. Zelda, from within her painting, offers Link the Bow of Light. It has a catch though. Because Zelda was a painting when she gave it to Link, Link can only use the bow when he's in painting form. So he begins to merge into the wall and shoots Ganon twice with the bow while chasing him out and attacking him with the Master Sword. After being shot, Ganon takes precautions, so Link realizes that the only way to hit Ganon a third and final time is to make a trick shot. He takes advantage of the fact that the room is a circle and fires away from Ganon, much to the beast's confusion. The arrow travels around and strikes him from behind a third and final time. Link finishes the beast off with the Master Sword, killing both Ganon and Yuga at the same time. Hilda is then freed. She attempts to resume the fight despite being tired and wounded. It's then that Ravio rushes in to stop the fight. He removes the hood to reveal himself as the Lorulian counterpart of Link, who was once the hero of Lorule, but his cowardice led him to being disgraced and banished by the princess. He comforts her and urges her to remember her conscience. In a moment of realization, she apologizes to Zelda and Link for threatening their world, and Zelda acknowledges this and forgives it. After all, heavy is the head that holds the crown. Hilda and Ravio watch as Link and Zelda return to their world via the Sacred Realm. Hilda states that she and Ravio will remain there with their people and witness the end. However, upon returning to the Hyrulean Sacred Realm, Zelda and Link marvel at the completed Triforce. Neither has seen the full thing before, and Zelda looks to Link and says that they both know what they must do. They both touch the Triforce and wish that the Lorulian Triforce be restored. In the Lorulian Sacred Realm, Ravio watches with the biggest grin as Hilda sheds tears of joy, witnessing hope return to their doomed world. And as peace is restored, the game comes to an end. Shortly after, though, Link leaves Hyrule and finds himself in Hytopia, where an evil witch named Lady Maud has cast a curse of bad taste on Princess Styla, making her unable to remove the ugly one-piece suit she's wearing. The One Piece is real! Link and his lookalikes begin to search for the pieces of the ladies' ensemble, the last piece of which is obtained only with the defeat of Lady Maud. The ensemble is then finished by Madame Couture, and Princess Styla is freed from her curse. The Golden Era, after the Triforce was unified after the events of A Link Between Worlds, Hyrule entered a golden age, where kings of Hyrule ruled with confidence, strength, and pride due to possessing the full Triforce. However, after so many generations, one of the kings begins to worry that his son is unworthy, so he splits the Triforce once more and hides the Triforce of Courage in the Great Palace until such a time that someone worthy can claim it. Era of Decline. You know what they say, hard times make strong men make good times make weak men, and weak men make bad times. The same is true even in the land of Hyrule. After so many years of good times brought on by Link and Zelda unifying the Triforce, someone unworthy finally took the throne.
My previous life is like a faint shadow.
Oh my god, Star Rail! No!
Possessing only the Triforce of Power and Wisdom.
I just made so many people mad right here.
Wizard and then demands his sister to tell him where their father hid the Triforce of Courage, but Zelda would not tell him. In a rage, the wizard casts a spell of eternal sleep over her. The repentant prince places her on the altar of the North Castle and laments his transgressions and greed. He declares that every princess born to the royal family be named Zelda, with his sister being named Zelda the First. The new king attempts to rule the kingdom to the best of his power, but his father had been correct about his son's weakness, and without the full Triforce, Hyrule began to lose standing. Its borders receded and its people began to fall into poverty. As time passed, the Triforce of Courage was forgotten entirely. The era of nostalgia. Alright, maybe it's not called that, but it's the era in which The Legend of Zelda for NES takes place. In this story, Ganon revives once more, takes the Triforce of Power, and kidnaps the descendant of Zelda the First, and demands the Triforce of Wisdom from her. However, she does not give it to him as she broke it into shards and hid them away. Ganon takes her to a secret stronghold in Death Mountain. She sends her maidservant, Lady Impa, to go and find someone worthy of the Triforce. As Impa flees, though, Ganon sends his monsters to attack her. She's only rescued by the appearance of Link, who is proven worthy. Impa bequeaths the quest to Link, who takes it upon himself to defeat Ganon. But, you know, since it's dangerous to go alone, he enters a cave and takes a sword from a very familiar old man who we all know, yet has no name. Link goes about collecting the pieces as well as gathering stronger weapons, such as the magic sword and the silver arrows, the last of which being the most powerful arrows in the series, as they're the only weapons besides the Master Sword that's been shown to kill Ganon in his Dark Beast form. After getting the Triforce of Wisdom, Link storms Death Mountain and faces Ganon, where his silver arrows turn the board to dust. Link takes the Triforce of Power and rescues Zelda. Peace seems to be restored. Or is it? Nope. Ganon's minions are still running around. They know that if they kill Link and mix his blood with the ashes of their master, then they can resurrect him and continue on their dark conquest. All the while, Link turns 16 and notices a strange mark on his hand. Impa explains the history of the King of Hyrule and how he hid a third piece of the Triforce from his unworthy heir. She gives him 6 crystals and a map and tells him that he must go to these locations and defeat the Guardian blocking the way, and then place the crystals into the heads of the statues he finds there. And so Link begins his quest. He completes these tasks, and as he enters the palace for the final trial, he learns that he must defeat his own shadow. And so, Shadow Link and regular Link do battle. In the end, Link, the non-Shadow one, comes out victorious and reclaims the Triforce of Courage. He returns to the North Castle, where he reunites all the pieces and forms the completed Triforce. He then uses it to awaken Princess Zelda the First and, I don't know, makes out behind the curtains with her. Bet that felt like battery acid to the heart for the Zelda he rescued in the last game. And that's the entire Zelda timeline so far. Now, I do want to remind you that the main meat of the story of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom occur at some point at the end of these timelines. I personally believe that the games are in their own timelines, separate from Child, Adult, and Fallen. After all, in the 10,000 years since the Zonai last affected Hyrule, there should have been a lot more calamities, as Ganondorf would need to have been reborn after the imprisoning war at some point for Ocarina of Time to occur, and this didn't happen. Not even Urbosa seemed to remember, and she knew the lore of Demon King Ganondorf. But I do realize that you are going to want an explanation for this as best as I can offer, so that I will try to do. Theory 1. The game transpires in the adult timeline. In this theory, it's believed that this must occur in the adult timeline due to the Rito appearing in the games, when the only timeline where they exist would be in the adult timeline. This theory I don't particularly believe due to the fact that just because the Zora only evolved into the Rito in the adult timeline doesn't mean that they can't evolve into them in any other timeline. By these standards, the Zora should have died out after the Rito evolved, but they're still around. So I feel this theory, for lack of a better term, holds no water. Theory number 2. It takes place in the Fallen Hero timeline. This one is one I had thought about for a very simple reason. Most people mentioned that they missed the Triforce in Breath of the Wild, as it never appeared. But this is false. We witnessed the Triforce twice. Once in the Calamity's opening days, and once more in the century thereafter when Link awakens. The appearance of it is on Zelda's hand, where she displays not only one triangle on her hand, but all three. And when she seals them away with her power, she calls upon the Triforce to boost her powers. As you can see, the Triforce physically manifests in front of her in its full size and glory while sealing Calamity Ganon away for the final time. It's a real blink and you'll miss it moment, but it is there. This suggests the Fallen Hero timeline, as this is the only timeline that explicitly makes a big deal about the Triforce being unified. As the others hardly mention if it's unified or not. But does this mean it's certain? I don't think so, and I'll explain why. Theory number 3. It takes place in the Child timeline. This is the timeline I would place it in if I disregarded my own theory that it's completely separate. My reasoning being that the Triforce likely would be unified in the other timelines as well, as both of them end with it being unified or possibly unified. When King Daphne's Hyrule floods Hyrule, he uses the unified Triforce to do so. However, the Triforce remains trapped below the sea for all time thereafter. In the Child timeline, however, Link possesses the Triforce of Courage.
Hello, Mechless Mutual. How can we insure you? Oh, send it right over. Here we go.
Zelda possesses the Triforce of Wisdom, and Ganondorf possesses the Triforce of Power. However, Link has a tendency not to hold on to his piece, and if Ganondorf perished, I highly doubt they would leave his piece to rot with him. So while not explicitly stated, it is likely, given past history with these games, that the Triforce is unified after this game. Now, why do I believe that these stories would be in the Child timeline when the Triforce's appearance could be considered inconclusive? Well, it boils down to a memory Link sees in Breath of the Wild. When he remembers his own anointing as the hero of Hyrule by Zelda, she uses a particular phrase. Whether skyward bound, adrift through time, or steeped in the glowing embers of twilight. That phrase is what sold me because Zelda paints a straight line. Skyward bound references Skyward Sword, the chronologically first game. She mentions adrift through time, which, while I guess half the series possesses time travel, it should be remembered that the most famous case is Ocarina of Time, which is where the timelines split. And then she mentions steeped in the glowing embers of twilight, which is a direct reference to Twilight Princess. Zelda paints us a straight line right from the first game in canon to the timeline split to Twilight Princess, which to that point was the latest family console level game to occur in the Child timeline, as Four Swords Adventures was only for the Game Boy and therefore not as memorable or iconic as Twilight Princess. Not to mention, they had re-released Twilight Princess in HD for the Wii U only 364 days earlier. So if you ask me, the Child timeline fits the best. But if you really ask me, I say it's in a totally different timeline besides the three obvious ones. but I guess it's really up to you. I hope you enjoyed this in-depth timeline explanation of the Legend of Zelda series. For something so iconic, spanning so many years, each one with a protagonist of the same name, it can be hard to get a grasp on the timeline of events, even for me. So a special thanks to the folks at the Zelda Wiki fandom for being conscientious about it. It definitely helped a lot. Click that thumbs up if you thought we did the series justice, and leave a comment below to tell us where you think Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity, and Tears of the Kingdom fit into the timeline. We'd love to hear from you, and if you enjoyed this timeline, we have plenty of others
Subscribe
to enjoy.
to the
Be sure to
leaderboard.
subscribe to the leaderboard and ring the bell to be notified when we release more content.
There we
Until
go.
next time, peace out.
Well, that was that. That was very complicated. Very complicated. I do not know. Yeah, but, you know, there's that. It is pretty cool. It is a pretty cool story, and I'll probably buy, like, a Legend of Zelda game. Probably the newer ones. Why does my hair look so weird, bro? I look like an... I take my burger king to my burger queen. Like, what the heck, bro? Get the heck out of here. There we go. Well, anyways, yeah, that's the complete Legend of Zelda timeline. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And, I don't really know how to, like, record a video on Nintendo Switch. So, I might figure that out before I play Zelda. Because I want to see if I can, you know, make a YouTube video about it. Well, anyways, like and subscribe. That'll help my channel a lot. And like and subscribe to the leaderboard. Made a great video actually. Let me just hold up. Nice. And yes, I'll see you guys in the next one.